I've been thinking about Halliburton nicknames.
Okay.
Tyrese, I like Ty, and I like Reese. I think both of those are good.
Sure.
Call him Ty, call him Reese. But when I think of Halliburton, I think of a couple things. I think of Burton Ernie, okay? And then I think of Ernie, and I think of Rubber Ducky, and I want to call him Ducky.
Okay.
I kind of like Ducky. And then the other one is I think when I think of Halle, I think of Halle Berry, and she famously played Jinx in a Bond movie. I think Jinx is a pretty solid nickname as well. So right now I'm kind of in between Jinx and Ducky.
Okay.
So I'm still working on it. It's the off season,
I'm gonna let those marinate.
Yeah, exactly.
For a week
we'll let the fans think about it too. But I think they're both fairly solid.
No, they're both good. Yeah, I mean, they're good nicknames in the abstract.
Yeah.
It's whether or not they apply appropriately to Tyrese Halliburton.
Well,
right?
I mean,
like the way that Birdhouse resonates with Terry Taylor.
Right.
Like you say Birdhouse and you're like, yes.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I know who it is. It's the guy who's down low.
And Gummy Bear, the way
That's right.
You see Dwayne Washington Jr. on the floor and you're like, Gummy Bear.
That's right. I totally get it. You're right. But I'm wondering if like Jinx, he pulls all the magic tricks out in the back, like whatever, like he's confusing us. And then Ducky,
Wasn't
like
there
he's
like a
slick.
Jinx the cat? I feel like I'm thinking Jinx the cat, and Tyrese is not a cat.
I don't
guy.
think Jinx the cat is a thing. I think that was Felix. Heathcliff.
Definitely Felix.
Heathcliff. No one should terrify the neighborhood.
Yeah, so just prepare to...
It'll be great.
It'll be perfect. Yeah, so just prepare to...
Y'all motherfuckers don't watch us play throughout the year, to tell you the truth. I'm gonna be real with you, and I don't care if I get fined.
That train is off the track.
I feel like you can't just like jump through Neptune and be okay.
Just prepare to...
What the show needs is more dogs and bears and chickens and stuff.
Yeah, so just prepare to be awash in unbeatable goodness.
Welcome, Pacers fans. You are listening to the Undebeatables, your semi-weekly Pacers podcast. Today is July 17th, 2022, and this is episode 599. Coming to you from the home of Jameson Brewer, Silver Spring, Maryland. I'm the doctor, Jason Triplett. This show, we're going to discuss what could have been in Pacerland and give some random thoughts on Summer League action. Joining me this week is one of our analysts, but we're still on a coast like buttered toast. From Asheville, North Carolina, he's our in-house bartender, mixing up the drinks and the crappy jingles. It's John Colson.
What is up, Pacer Nation? What is up, Jason? It is so good. I'm so glad to see you. It is, we talked about taking a summer break, and I thought, you know what? I can't stay away. I can't stay away from the doctor.
I can't quit you.
I can't quit you.
No, I agree. Yeah, and things have been happening, so our emotions have been toyed with over the last week or so, and we need to debrief.
They have been, and I've got a lot of friends and fans who are don't know what's going on, and we'll let them know, or we'll confuse
I know some
them more.
Undebeatables that don't know what's going on, so let's update them.
That's
apparently,
right. That's right. Yeah, the reason Harper's here is because he has nothing to say. Apparently.
Right, so before we start the show, I just want to remind you that this show is brought to you by you. You can support us by heading over to patreon.com/undebeatables and support the longest running Pacers podcast, 599 episodes, for as little as $1 a month.
That's how you get to the longest running.
There you go.
Yeah.
Exactly. You can also support us at higher levels, which gets you some cheat code treats. You get privy to our Slack channel, which was blowing up this week.
Super fun.
And you are more than welcome to participate
I feel
in those
like that's worth
conversations.
$5 a month. I mean, just for how much
I would
stuff
think
was
so.
going on. And you get you'll get a new T-shirt when it comes out for free.
Koozie. Keep your beers cold this
right.
summer.
You know what? I'm gonna say I'll give you 2 koozies if you give me $5 a month.
Oh, wow.
I know. Joey will not be happy, but he's not here, so screw it.
It's an exclusive July offer.
That's right. That's right.
If you join in the month of July, 2 koozies at the $5 or $10 level. Okay, I want to give a shout out before we get started to our friends Tanya and Paolo and their son Kai, who joined Jill, Ethan, and I for a Mystics game today.
Oh, nice.
We went down to the Mystics play in a new arena. It's pretty much their own arena down in Southeast, which is a nice, cozy, I think it's like a 5,000 or 6,000 seat stadium. And they kicked the crap out of the Minnesota Lynx, and it was fun to watch. So, shout out. Thanks for joining us. I will say, you know, when we do live, we go visit arenas, we always give a report.
Yeah.
This place is nice, a little bit sterile. It was Japanese Heritage Month, though, so the Olympic torch was in the building, which was kind of cool.
How does that even work?
Well, because Tokyo hosted the Olympics last year, if you remember.
So it's just traveling around to where's the next place?
I don't know, but this was like in partnership with like the Japanese embassy.
Okay.
You know,
All right.
one of the benefits of being in DC. And the only other comment, once again, I'm getting very old. It was so loud, just so loud.
Really? It's a WNBA game.
Yeah, and like not like the typical just high pitched scream because there's so many kids. Like it was manufactured sound.
They were
just
pumping
played
in
the
the sound.
music
Yeah.
like super loud the whole time, which I was already sort of annoyed with. But now that I have a son, I'm extra annoyed because I couldn't even like talk to him during the game
And explain to him how
like,
basketball works. Right.
exactly,
Yeah.
which I was very excited to do, and I couldn't. Not that he was into it at all, but
Yeah, but that's when you got to start them, you know,
exactly right.
before they're interested.
It's not like it's going to get better over the next 6 years when I take him to games and try to explain to him how things.
He's going to be more and more embarrassed by you.
Well, that's true.
I shout out this time of year, by the way, because I also 2 nights ago I watched The Fever on at a bar on TV because it's on national television because there's not a lot of stuff other going on. And so they're the WNBA is on ESPN. The Fever, I started watching the game, knowing it would not go well because we are currently 5-21 going into the game, and we were quickly down 25 points, and we're now 5-22. So it's we're still rebuilding. Got a bunch of young
Rebuilding.
talent.
Lots of rookies in that line.
Yeah, a lot of rookies. Our offseason was full of rookies, so another high draft pick. We'll see what happens next year.
What are they fading for? Somebody? Are they losing for Susan?
I think they are. I'm not sure. I haven't looked into the WNBA draft next year. I'll give you an update next time.
Okay, sounds good. I wanted to get you on to debrief. Over the past week, the Pacers did something that they haven't done a lot in their NBA tenure. They tried to pursue a high value free agent, and they did so by using a rare mechanism, the offer sheet. So DeAndre Ayton, will be a 5th-year center for the Phoenix Suns, is what's called a restricted free agent. The Pacers signed him to a deal, but the way that the contract works is that Phoenix has a chance to match that offer, and they chose to do that.
Immediately.
So I'm here to report to you that nothing has changed in Pacerland. Although we did waive some people to make enough space to make room for the contract should it go all the way through. So Gummy Bear, Dwayne Washington Jr. got waived, and then the 3 trade fodder folks, Stauskas, Fitz, and somebody else
from the Boston trade.
From the Boston trade, yeah, got waived and what do you call it? Stretched. Yeah.
So we'll
pay them over the next 4 years or something.
Right. So we basically all of them were on their 1-year deal, so we're just going to stretch that for 4 years. So that will be a very minimal amount of money for us to pay.
Right.
Stauskas cutting him hurt because it took away our 20% Canadians on the team.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, so now we're just down to 3 Canadians.
Yeah, but we're down to only like I think 12 or 13 on the roster, so we're still at 25%.
Good. Maybe there's time to sign another Canadian.
Sure.
So, Jason, one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this is because this is actually a huge deal. First of all, the Pacers went ahead and made an offer sheet on a former number 1 draft pick. This is essentially the most coveted offseason free agent. And a lot of times teams are nervous about offering restricted money, especially small market teams. It ties up your cap for a couple days. We had the advantage of Kevin Durant showing up on the scene and saying he wanted to be traded, and it sort of extended the whole season, or this off-season trading period. So we didn't offer Ayton this deal on day 1 of the deadline. But what we did do is offer the largest offer sheet in NBA history. And that sounds more dramatic than it is, in the sense that the cap has moved up dramatically and continues to, and there have been no off-season signings, offer sheets for max players this off-season. So this was going to be that, whoever offered it to him. But the fact that this team offered it was a big deal.
Yeah, and if I could just jump in, rarely do players of this caliber
End up in this
even
situation.
go on to the restricted free agent market, because teams realize their value and extend them, right? And so this just happened because Phoenix and DeAndre Ayton last year couldn't come to an agreement on an extension.
Right.
Ayton felt he was a max player. Phoenix did not.
Right.
And so they said, prove yourself. And he kind of did. The Pacers made him close to a max player, basically. I guess Phoenix could have offered him a little bit more.
Well, no, actually, it's fairly significant, right? So we were only able to. So if Phoenix had offered him the max extension at the time, a year ago, they would have been able to pay him an extra year, and I think over 4 years, about $5 million more a year, and then plus another $30-something million. So we're talking about close to $50 million more if they offered him the max.
That's pretty substantial.
It's very substantial. We were only able to offer him. The reason they do this is because the NBA wants teams to hold on to their draft picks, right? It's going to be a significant amount of money. When they did not extend him that, we were able to offer him $130 million for 4 years, which would have been our highest paid player by a significant amount. I believe Buddy Hield gets paid about $21 million, something like that. And we would have been paying DeAndre Ayton $33 million a year. So he would now be the cornerstone of your franchise. And we went ahead and said, we want to do this. We put that out there in the universe. We said, this is what we want. We have the cap space. We're going to even move guys and waive guys and pay guys in stretch positions to get this guy. And within, 2 hours, Phoenix matched?
Something like that.
And that means
it was
over.
that day, later that day.
So normally when these things happen, what you'll find is a lot of times is when you're trying to do an offer sheet, you can negotiate with the other team and try to do a sign and trade. And so what I had been assuming this entire time is that we would try to figure out how to take Miles Turner and turn him into part of this deal, and then it might be some part of a Kevin Durant deal because Phoenix really wanted Kevin Durant. What's interesting is by not offering Miles Turner, in fact, we didn't have to because we had the cap space. We didn't have to do a sign and trade. By just offering Ayton this number, it takes him off the board for a Kevin Durant trade. And for the Pacers being a part of anything that's related to Phoenix or anything at all. Like, you can't go trade for Ayton later this year now. He's just off the deal. Basically, the rules are that Ayton is out of your control for the next season. So this was not like there's not some grand scheme where we're trying to figure out how to get him later. Like, this is done. In fact, DeAndre Ayton can't even be traded until I think January 15th, which is like just less than a month before the trade deadline. So what we did essentially is make Ayton on the Phoenix Suns, because he's not going to be a part of a Kevin Durant trade now. He's not going to be a part of any trade anytime soon. And I believe that even after that trade deadline, does he have a no trade clause through the end of the season?
I believe so,
Yeah. So this is the way. Okay, so this is interesting. I believe that these things are implemented because, Jason, say you decide to get a new job. Okay. And you went to the next place and you said, I would like to get a new job. And they said, we'll offer you this amount of money. And you went back to your old job and said, this new job is offering me this much money. Can you match it? And they could say yes, but you would still have the right to say, you know what, but I like the new job better, even if you're matching the money, because I want to move on with my life, or I like what this business does better for the environment or the universe or whatever.
Sure.
And so you have that ability. In this case, DeAndre Ayton signed this offer sheet with the Indiana Pacers saying he wanted to come back and play with us. Phoenix is able to match. He awkwardly is forced to go back to play with that team. He has no choice because they matched. And so I think they give the players a little bit of rights, like, hey, they can't just turn you around and trade you that full next year. And that's right. Sort of a,
half of next year.
Right. So they're, also, but you have the chance to say no for the other half. So there's incentives. It's not as good as, you saying, hey, I like this. I like the Pacers better. I want to go there. Which is, maybe what he was saying by signing the offer sheet.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting dance, which I don't fully understand the psychology of. Because it seems to me like if the Pacers were intent on getting DeAndre Ayton in the fold, that, obviously this is a way to do it, but I think keeping their hopes alive for facilitating a Kevin Durant trade or just straight up flipping for Miles Turner or something like that seemed to be a better move. Because from everything that I read, conventional wisdom on the street was that if somebody signed Ayton to an offer sheet at whatever this value was, Phoenix was going to match it because they can't just let him walk away, basically.
Right, because that's a huge loss
work in the NBA today. Like, you just can't lose assets for nothing.
A number one pick from a few years ago.
Exactly, right. So, so on the one hand, I agree. I was very excited that the Pacers were, aggressive and wanted to move in a direction, and like the 3-hour window where I got to imagine having Ayton on the team and it being like a quick sort of one of these things that the Pacers always want to do was sort of a quick rebuild. A rebuild on the fly would be, we would have a really exciting, dynamic, potentially 3 or at least 2 borderline all-star type players on the roster right away, and be competing for play-in, if not playoffs, right? Like almost right away. Compared to where we are now, which is still, I interested to hear what you think the plans are moving forward, because I'm kind of curious. Like it seems like what this move did was say, okay, we're going to push our chips in and try to get this new rebuild and have a new, have our cornerstone pieces be Halliburton, Mathurin, and Ayton. And then we're just going to build around that young core and go forward. That ends up not working. And so you take that off the table, and at the same time, you've thrown Miles Turner even further under the bus, despite the fact that he's been thrown under the bus for the past, several years over and over again, like it seemed like this was this was like the most clear, like, okay, we prefer another player over you in this position, and we're gonna do everything we can to try to get this thing.
I mean, I agree with that. I think that's the main problem on this end for the Pacers. I mean, so it's, you know, you said all of the things that you had heard is that Phoenix was going to match no matter what, right? So the Pacers have to have more intel than we do, right? So why offer it if you know they're going to match? Because if they're going to match, then what you're doing is just alienating Miles Turner, essentially. Because what you've said is...
And potentially... Well, you have a theory on this, but so one other potential thing is that you're hamstringing? Is that the word? Yeah. You're tying Phoenix's hands behind their back at some level. You're like forcing them to either do something very quickly with you,
right,
like a sign and trade or something like
right,
that. Or you're saying,
I think
we are
like
taking you out of the Kevin Durant sweepstakes.
I think there's like a 7-hour window after you offer
that
the offer sheet that can be turned into a trade.
Before it like locks, or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. There's like a window to make a trade, and I think maybe we were just like, hey, look, we want to be a part of whatever the Kevin Durant thing's going to be. We want to get assets, you know, we want to do this stuff. We're giving you a solid $33 million number that you can now move, and we want to be a part of it, and we're going to force your hand, but. You know, that's a gamble that didn't work, right? Essentially. Because they were like, hey, we don't care. We'd rather have this guy for $3 million than rush a trade. And now you're stuck with a guy, Miles Turner, who I've got to say that I've been reading a lot of the press releases from the coaching staff and from ownership and stuff, and everybody's talking so good about Miles Turner right now. And they have been for a long time. I think, Carlisle came out and said, he's the most dominant rim protector in the league. They interviewed Buchanan and about, I think this was before the Brogdon trade, and they were asking about Brogdon and Turner, and he was like, yeah, Brogdon, whatever. But then he was like, no, we really care about Turner. We want him to be on the team for a long time, sort of. And so I wonder if, there's some hope that they could say enough stuff publicly that will keep him happy while they do this other stuff. I mean, there is a world where we could have offered this contract. In fact, we did offer this contract, this offer sheet to Ayton, and still kept Miles Turner. Now, does that make sense in a rotation? Not necessarily, but I suppose you could go back to Miles Turner and say, we were doing this just to screw Phoenix, just to keep, Durant in Brooklyn, and whatever. I don't know, because we've got some grand scheme here. I don't know.
Typically in these situations, I would give the benefit of the doubt to the Pacers front office, and I still lean that way, but my guard is still up after the whole Nate Bjorkgren fiasco. That
for sure.
I have questions about whether or not this front office really has its finger on the pulse of what's going on in the NBA and within its own franchise, and is doing things in the right direction. So it remains to be seen. To me, it feels like there's still a move out there to be made, right? That Turner is going to get moved for something. I guess at this point we're in full rebuild mode, right? Like the ceiling for this team is not super high this year. Although I stand by the fact that I think we're going to be a frisky team, and we'll get to Summer League and why I think that's going to be the case here in a little bit. But the ceiling is not super high on this team, right? So isn't it in the best interest to get young guys the most minutes as possible?
I think one of the things that we said last week or the week before when we were on the show was that this team is full of children, and that Miles Turner
having some adults in the
is
room
an adult in the room. and he knows how to play basketball. He knows how to run a defense. I mean, you think about how he's been calling out this defense for, 6-7 years now. That stuff matters. And I wonder if, I don't know what our hurry is to get rid of him, whether we just think because he's been dangled for so long, he's no longer invested in the team, is a legitimate question. We got rid of Sabonis, because, we had an opportunity to move one or both of those guys, and we moved one of them. And ideally, he should be our starting center, right? And we did a swing and a miss on this offer sheet, and now we've got to repair this relationship with Miles Turner. And what you're saying is that we've got to make a trade because it's not going to happen?
Well, I don't know. I think that I think I agree with the first half of that statement, which is that damage has been done to the relationship with Miles Turner, and if I were Miles Turner, I would not be super happy with the way I had been. Despite what all of the
ownership and coaching
front
stuff
office might have said to me in private, and said, and even has come out publicly and said, "Oh, this is a dominant, rim defender. We love Miles, like blah blah blah." They haven't come out and said Miles Turner is not on the table.
Right.
Like, this is our guy.
Right. They haven't said that for 5 years.
Right, and they haven't said that for 5 years, and he has been on the table,
right.
like actively shopped for 5 years, right. And like, there's only so long that you can take that. I guess I don't know. I mean, Miles does seem like he has a good head on his shoulders. I don't think he would do anything I think he would be a good soldier, and if his job was like, all right, train up these young guys, we'll feature you a bit in the offense, right? Because he's going into an expiring deal, I think, right? Doesn't
his last year.
He's in the last year of his contract,
yeah.
So he's in a contract year, right. So he's going to want to put
up as good a numbers
and
as
show himself and put up numbers,
right.
And say, look, I deserve another, $80 million contract or something like that, right?
Yeah, the thing is I think he's a good soldier. I think he's a good dude, but he has come out and said some stuff in frustration online, and reports. And I know these basketball players are well compensated for their work. But I would say that it would be hard to go into my job if I knew that my boss was actively shopping me for somebody better who's arguably, I don't know, Ayton's younger, definitely gets more rebounds. He's definitely a better defender. He's definitely better around the rim as far as offensively. Mm-hmm. But, you could say, hey, look, well, I'm a better shooter and I'm a better rim defender, and maybe I fit better on this team. There's arguments to be made both ways, and also I'm way cheaper, So I think I would feel a little bit thrown under the bus, and I would be hard to go into work. So he's allowed to feel a little butthurt over this, and I hope you might be right. We might just have to trade him.
Yeah, I have limited information of what the relationship is between him and Carlisle and Chad Buchanan and Pritchard, and maybe they're all on the same wavelength. And one of the things that they said after I think it was when McMillan left the first time, definitely after Bjorkgren left, was that they wanted to be more upfront and transparent with their player personnel, right, as far as what they were thinking and what the machinations were in the front office,
right.
And that they felt, and I agree with this, that at least transparency lets them know, look, we value you as a player. We want you to be part of this franchise. We think you have this skill set that is excellent. We are trying to make these moves currently because we feel it gives us long term a better this, that, or the other. If you're a player, who knows if you buy that kind of stuff? But
right.
But at least they're being honest with you, and it's much easier to come to work and work hard and do your job for somebody that you feel is an honest broker,
right?
Even if they're you have these limitations, Like, I'm gonna say it honestly. And,
Right, you're only shooting
if we could get
32%
somebody
from
better,
the
we're
range.
gonna get somebody better.
And,
Like,
yeah.
these are the things you need to
You
work
only
on.
get
Like,
six rebounds a game, you know?
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
So-
no, I mean, and I mean that's the thing. You just want somebody to be straight with you, and if that's what we're doing,
Right.
Well, no, okay. So here's another thing that, and I don't know how much you got to put stock in this, but I was listening to Bill Simmons and on his podcast, and he mentioned that when Rick Carlisle came in, part of the deal was that he was going to have not run the show. I mean, Kevin Pritchard is still part of the show, but he's going to have a lot of influence over what's going on, and that his fingerprints are all over the rebuild of this franchise right now. That he wasn't able to make the two centers work, and that he didn't really love Karis LeVert, he didn't really love Brogdon, and that this is a lot of this is being driven by him because he inherited a team that he said he could make win, but very quickly decided that he couldn't, and so his fingerprints are all over this rebuild. I'm a little uncomfortable with that. I mean, your coach should always have a say, but like, I hope he doesn't have too much of a say because I've learned to trust Kevin Pritchard, and I hope he's not getting too bullied in the back office at this point.
I mean, so I listened to that podcast as well, and I was the point that Simmons was trying to make, I think, is that that's a negative thing. That, like, we've seen this in the NBA before when people are GM and coach, it doesn't work, and you point to Stan Van Gundy and he's a case in point or whatever, and it's, I think, less simple than that. I mean, I think if there is an individual that I would be comfortable giving a lot of reins to, it would be Rick Carlisle. I mean, he's been around the NBA a long time. He knows his system. He knows what he wants to do. And I have less trust in Kevin Pritchard than you do, I think. So I'm fine with him getting bullied around.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Mad at old Pritchard.
He committed a fireable offense.
What's he done for you lately?
No, I mean he's done fine.
What was the fireable offense?
Hiring Nate Bjorker.
Yeah, you're right. That was brutal.
It was absolutely fireable. Like, there's no reason he should have a job right now.
Yeah. Also, TJ Leaf is probably a fireable offense.
Potentially. I mean, I don't know. But, like, I mean, I will say, like, obviously the Halliburton trade, super happy with that.
Sure.
I like the acquisition of Smith, and I'm very excited about Mathurin, which maybe we can transition now to to summer league and
for sure,
and how we're feeling about this team going forward, given the fact that we're not, we just spent 30 minutes of hot air talking about a DeAndre Ayton situation that is basically never going to happen.
Right.
So,
well, I mean, let's wrap this up then, because I think for me, I'm not sure that I had convinced myself that Ayton was actually the answer to anything, and I don't want anybody to go away hearing that I thought. What I liked is the confidence to make the swing at it. My concern is that our front of office should have known what the consequences of this going into it, and I'm concerned that they went into it a little bit blindly, even though they had extra time because of all the stuff that was going on with Kevin Durant. Like, you've got to do your research and know they're going to, respond. I mean, they responded immediately. They didn't take 48 hours, which is what they have. They didn't think about it. They were like, oh, we've just been waiting for somebody to throw this offer at him. And my conspiracy theory is that we did this as a favor to Phoenix because at the trade deadline last year, we threw them, I don't know, Torrey Craig, and picked up Jalen Smith. And he's a great prospect who, wasn't playing on their team, but like, I wonder if we underpaid for him and promised something in the future. Because the thing is Ayton was already sitting out there that whole year, knowing that he had to get his, contract matched at some point. He was going to become a restricted free agent. I wonder if part of the deal at the trade deadline was, okay, we'll let you take Jalen Smith for cheap, but you've got to give him an offer sheet so that we can save ourselves $20 million over 4 years, and potentially whatever it is, $50 million over 5.
I mean, I like that as a conspiracy theory. And it is well known, I guess, that Simon is not comfortable with doing offer sheets because it kind of like screws with the other owners' financials, and he's not comfortable doing that.
Right.
And so the fact that he did that this time, or was signed off on it happening this time, is indicative that this situation was unique.
Because we're still mad at Portland for offering the Hibbert offer sheet, right? Like, the Simons have never gotten over that.
Right. It's not implausible that.
So
maybe. I mean, obviously,
maybe
you
that's
guys
what you
scratch
go
each
and
other's
tell.
backs, right? And you build relationships,
Right.
and that's how you make
trades and things, right?
deals work. Yeah, exactly.
So maybe that's what we go and tell Turner. Be like, hey, look, you can't tell anybody this because otherwise it's tampering. So just know that we've always loved you and we always wanted you to be our starting center, but we're doing this as a favor to Phoenix so we can get Jalen Smith. And also, by the way,
who is also going to take your job?
No, he's not. Jalen Smith, this is since we recorded last, has been pinned in as the starting power forward.
No, we talked about this last time.
Oh, I thought we just talked about signing him.
No.
Okay.
No. We talked about
Well, so my thing is, I don't know if I made this point up before, but this was our leverage. We were able to sign him when other people could give him more money, but he said he liked this team. We were able to give him the minimum the maximum that we were allowed to give him, which was $4.5 million a year, by offering him a starting gig. And there are very few other teams in the NBA that would offer him a starting gig, even though they could offer him more money. And I think this is, maybe part of the same conspiracy theory here.
Maybe
we told him that when
see.
we drafted, when we traded for him.
You're unearthing a lot of potential tampering for the Pacers organization. So let's move along quickly to Summer League action. So the Pacers took part in the Las Vegas Summer League this year. So they played a grand total of 4 games, I believe. Did not make it to the finals because they got blowed out in their last game against the Washington Wizards. But Colson, you caught a substantial amount of Summer League action, and I caught a little bit, and so I thought we should break some of it down. What did you see, and how are you feeling?
I was really excited to see what... So you've got to remember that the team that we put out there, Isaiah Jackson, Terry Taylor, Benedict Mathurin, we've got Naismith, Nembhard. These guys are going to be seeing significant minutes for us in this coming season. It's almost their starting lineup, honestly. Mm-hmm. And so this is not a normal summer league, and I wanted to watch how this was going to go. Mathurin hit his first three-pointer, and then he hit his third, I believe. They're both top of the key. His release is super high, and they both looked really good. And one of them was off the dribble, and one of them was off the screen, I believe. And I was like, okay, this guy's legit. And then they sat him down. And I was like, okay, I guess we'll just watch everybody else. And what we ended up doing is just playing really fast and sharing the basketball. And Isaiah Jackson and Terry Taylor just dominating up front. And Mathurin ended up with what I thought was a quiet 20 points, which is a weird thing to say about a rookie. I assumed when the game was over that he'd scored like 12 or 13, but he hadn't. He found ways to score, and I love saying somebody scored a quiet 20.
I guess we can recap the score. So they beat the Hornets 96-84,
yeah.
And then they lost to the Kings 103-96, and then they beat the Pistons 101-87.
Yeah.
And then they lost to the Wizards
dramatically
97-79. But nobody
played.
Was playing in that game.
we sat
nobodies
everyone.
of the nobodies who were playing in it.
Well, so at that point we had cut Washington, and then we
Right.
just and also Matherin,
Matherin,
Jackson, and Taylor all had minor injuries or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So I caught the first half of the Detroit game
Okay.
and a bit of the Wizards game. And so I'm going to throw the Wizards game out the window because
Right, doesn't count.
that stunk. But the first half of the Detroit game was incredible. Like,
Yeah.
I felt like I was very impressed by the pace of play. Guys were playing very aggressive defense and getting out and running. And then even I thought in half-court sets, like, guys seemed to know what was going on. They were making cuts and plays and, like, running off-ball screens and stuff like that. And I think that just shows the coaching prowess. So Ronald Norred was the coach, our head coach for the Summer League team. And I think that shows his prowess, but also the basketball IQ of the guys that were on the floor. And like you said, like, the Pacers are sort of at an advantage in that, you know, a lot of these guys played at least one season. And then you had guys like Neesmith and Gummy Bear, I guess, who had played like multiple NBA seasons or
Right.
whatever. I will say I was super impressed with Neesmith, not necessarily on the offensive end, but on the defensive end. And I felt like his activity was very impressive. I haven't seen him play a lot, so I don't know proportionally what it is, but I feel like he looks like a guy that is rejuvenated at some level. Like, he's got a new lease on his NBA career
Okay.
to some degree, and so that's an exciting thing, and I hope
At
see
least
that continue
defensively,
to
right?
develop.
Because I mean, he also didn't shoot great.
No, not at all. But his activity on both ends of the floor, I thought was good. Like, he grabs tons of rebounds and is like crashing the offensive glass. I was also impressed with Nembhard.
Yeah.
Is that
Nembhard,
have we
yeah.
settled on Nembhard? Yeah, he is a true point guard. Like,
Right.
when he was on the floor, things are running appropriately, and that says something for a complete rookie to come in with probably like 2 days of practice and like get people doing the right thing. I think it says a lot about just his talent, I guess, at that position. And then the other guy that stood out was Isaiah Jackson. And holy
Yeah.
mackerel. I mean, I guess we knew this already, but like, his athleticism is just insane.
Yeah.
Like, you know, what Carlisle and the front office have been telling us is that this is like an athlete they've never seen before. And every time I watch him play, I'm like, yeah, he's pretty incredible.
He's just
Like,
bringing it too. Like, he just plays. He's got a motor. He just plays so
Yep.
hard. You feel like he's everywhere at all at once. I think I was on the Slack and I was like, "Be afraid of Isaiah Jackson. Like, he's coming for you." In that first game against Charlotte, 19 minutes, 12 rebounds and 9 points. You know, whatever.
And like, how many blocks? Didn't he have like a jillion blocks?
jillion
or something?
blocks.
Or maybe that was the Detroit game. I don't know.
But like, if you can get a guy, he had 4 blocks.
4 blocks.
And plus 20 in the plus minus. But if a guy can give you essentially a double-double in 19 minutes plus 4 blocks, things are going pretty well for you. The coaching staff kept talking about how Nembhard is like just a true professional and like already he can run a team. And you got a little sense of that for sure.
For sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not saying that he's, the next thing. He's the next starting point guard for this team because we already have one of those. Or even if he's going to be better than T.J. McConnell, but you've got a guard that knows how to set people up, and that's useful to have on the team. So,
I mean, it goes back to what Harper always says: is just you want dudes that are competing, and competition is good in the locker room, in practices. Like, you want your bench to be pushing your starters every day in practice, and like, so it's good to just have that depth. And then I mean, you said things about Matherin. I'm very excited about this dude. Like, he is.
Yeah. I mean,
He's a real deal.
He competes.
It was interesting in the Detroit game. They had Carlisle come in and sit in with the announcers and do a little bit of an interview over a couple, commercial breaks or whatever. And he was very excited about Matherin, and said he's super raw, and that's a good thing. Mostly because he's like, I just get to shape him. Essentially, that's how I read that.
Yeah.
And he's super excited about Jackson, of course, and all the young guys. And Halliburton, it sounded like he's super excited.
Well, sure. I mean, the man loves point guards, and he's got one of the best in the league. I mean, it's really interesting. We go back to the Ayton thing, but DeAndre Ayton, one of the reasons he said he was going to sign for the Pacers is because he was excited about playing for, with Tyrese Halliburton. So I mean,
right.
We now have a guy who people want to play with, and we could actually maybe be a draw. So that's pretty cool.
The other guy that made me very happy watching Summer League is Terry Taylor.
Birdhouse.
Oh my god, I just love watching him play.
I do too.
Like he just gets offensive rebounds out of nowhere that you're just like, oh yeah, why haven't people been doing this for 50 years? I don't understand. Yeah. Like he's just like always in the right place. Yeah, he's Rodman-esque in his ability to like read where the ball is going to go off the glass and like be in the right place.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, when you talk about the great offensive rebounders in the league, I mean, yeah, you're Rodman, you're Foster. They used to do interviews with Foster about how do you read and it's almost innate. Like it's something you don't even understand what you're doing, but you do. You can talk about it. You can talk about the angles, but like you can't explain it to somebody else so they can do it. Because it's so much instinct. And you're right. He just ends up at the right spot, and it's like he's shorter than everybody else, but he's kind of like, I'm just gonna wander up to this right spot where the ball's coming and just get it.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
He's the pacer I didn't know I needed, but I've always wanted. As the team is currently constructed, I don't know how many games we're gonna win, but I think you said that they're going to be fast, and they're going to play hard and be interesting. So that's something.
It's gonna we're gonna be fun to watch. Yeah. I think when the whole package is together, like it's a bunch of young dudes that are hungry and want to run and play hard every night. And we got a taste of that at the end of the season last year, and it's gonna be that, but the talent level is gonna be higher, I think.
And we're gonna be actually trying to win basketball games instead of actively trying to lose.
I mean, I can't answer for that yet. I don't know what the full plan is, but we will not be sitting our best players, I don't think, out of a desire to go 0-10 down the stretch or whatever.
So I'm not completely convinced that this team doesn't work with Miles Turner, right? Like, I mean, Halliburton with a pick and pop Miles Turner and a pick and roll Miles Turner.
I mean, that's the thing. There is no pick and roll Miles Turner.
I've seen him roll occasionally. He's rolled occasionally. I mean, he normally pops.
Occasionally.
He also doesn't set the screen that you need him to, but either does Isaiah Jackson at this point, right? So, I mean,
which says so much about how good Tyrese Halliburton is with the pick and roll. He was like one of the most efficient pick and rollers, like in his stint with the Pacers, despite the fact that there was like no big guys on the floor. Like Miles Turner wasn't even playing, and like
right, and Sabonis was our only pick setter, and he was traded for him. So
exactly, yes. So it would have been very interesting to see him with a guy that has learned how to run the pick and roll with Chris Paul. Like that would have been cool to have him be like, oh, I learned this, Tyrese. We can do this too.
Right.
That would have been good, but. Nonetheless, I do agree. A Miles Turner pick and pop is pretty good.
As long as he can hit the shot.
If he would roll a few times,
to keep people honest.
Exactly.
I just do feel like this team needs, adults in the room if they're going to have a decent season. But as we go back to this, because Ayton didn't pick up this, or because Phoenix matched the offer sheet, Ayton did pick it up. The Pacers are currently $30 million under the tax, or the cap. Under the cap. And $15 million underneath the minimum.
The floor.
So we have a lot of money to spend.
I know 4 guys that do a podcast weekly.
We would all
that
take.
would love to just bring our free throw prowess to the Pacers roster. You don't even have to give us the full 15. Like, give us,
Just a couple mil.
We'd be happy with 8.
Each. A couple mil each.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, I can swing my bows. I know that's not allowed anymore in the NBA, but that's what I was taught in junior high. You get that ball, you got to swing it around and hit somebody in the nose,
That's right, yeah. Of course, you were a tall guy in junior high, but now if you swung your bows in the NBA, you'd just be hitting people in the midsection. So you could probably still do it. Yeah, exactly.
I think that's against the rules.
Yeah, but it's not a flagrant.
That's true. That's true. Not intentional. I'm just clearing space.
Yep. All right. Well, there will be potentially more things since we're not at the salary floor yet. The Pacers will probably sign some guys.
Who are they going to sign?
Or
There's nobody
trade,
out there.
or
There's nobody out there.
Yeah, no, there
I mean,
isn't.
the only
that was a whole conversation that I chose not to have because I looked at the available free agent list and said, no.
The only thing that we could do is facilitate trades that happen, right? Like if the Durant trade happens or the Kyrie Irving trade happens, we could potentially
absorb
contracts and get some draft picks and maybe a nice young talent. But at this point, there is nobody to go out there and just throw money at. And maybe we could keep that, all the way until the trade deadline and do something with that as well. So we'll see.
That's true. So we will be in touch, I guess, with you, the fans, if anything groundbreaking happens between now and the schedule release. I guess maybe is the next major event on the calendar.
I think we might put out some classics just to tide people
sounds
over.
good. We might get together for some Undegoogleables and or a movie watch or something like that.
All right.
So stay tuned. You can keep in touch with us if you have ideas for shows, or if you want to tell us how stupid we were here or explain restricted free agency to us, that'd be good. You can do that on Twitter. We're at Undebeatables. We have a Facebook page /The Undebeatables. There's a contact form on our website, theundebeatables.com. You can email us old school style at shoutout@theundebeatables.com.
Is that old school now? Is that how old we got?
I think so.
Is that like writing a check to somebody? Emailing?
It's pretty close,
Oh, my goodness.
I think you went, TikTok people now or something? You tweet it, you slide in a DM, something like that.
You know what? I don't check my email anymore, so you're right. Just text me.
And if you go back to that website, theundebeatables.com, you can swing over to a link that's called Store, and there's a medium t-shirt there that you could buy. And then for the 22-23 season, we will likely have new t-shirts that you could also buy via that store link.
Right. We're not taking pre-orders right now unless you are a Patreon. At that point, if you want to sign up for Patreon, we will pre-order your shirt. But we're currently not on the website pre-ordering. So just go ahead and think the money you were going to spend on the shirt, just go ahead and become a Patreon. Get that free shirt once we put it out there.
Perfect.
For the architect, Donnie Walsh, and our once and always Hall of Fame coach, Bobby Slick Leonard. Turn out the lights, the party's over.
What do you think Slick is thinking about the offer sheet?
I mean, I think he would have been excited going after a young prospect. I think Ayton is fraught. I think he's not exactly... I mean, he's clearly a huge talent, but, I'm not... I think Leonard would... I think Slick would be concerned about his toughness. And I think...
Oh, interesting.
I do. I think he would be a little concerned that, he's not tough enough.
Do you think he's not tough enough?
I do.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten that vibe from him. I thought
No.
Just you mean physically tough, not mentally tough.
No, I think he's not mentally tough enough.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think he's a little soft baby.
All right, good. Well, he's not on our team now, so we can.
I mean, I wasn't gonna say it until he was on our team, because I was gonna be like, "Oh, here we go. Here's another Hibbert." You know, like I loved Hibbert, and I'll root for him forever. I would have rooted for Ayton forever, but I think he's a little mentally soft. And I think Slick Leonard understands that stuff and would have felt it right away. And if they had asked him, he probably would have been like, "Don't spend the $33 million." That's what I think.
Interesting.
I'm glad it didn't work out.
All right. Well, there you go. This is why you hang on till the end. You get the real insight.
That's right.